The people on My 600-Pound Life are some of the heaviest human beings alive. But you can't reach 600 pounds on your own. Behind nearly every patient was someone feeding their addiction, claiming to be helping them in the name of love, but actually causing them to stay sick and stay heavy. From a husband who waved a burger in his recovering wife's face, to a mother who fed her dying son until the very end. These are the most hated enablers on My 600-Pound Life. And let's kick things off with Edgar, Penny Sager's husband. Penny's husband is remembered as one of the most frustrating enablers the show ever put on screen, mostly because he barely seemed present at all. And it was clear why from the start.
Right now, I'm her full-time caregiver, so I can't go out and earn money. We're just living on her disability.
Penny was in control of every dollar in the house, and very possibly Edgar's paycheck too. In many situations like this, the live-in caregiver is paid out of the disabled person's benefits, which may well have been the case here. If so, it meant Edgar was dependent on Penny for a roof over his head. If Penny got healthy, Edgar risked the one source of income keeping him afloat. So when Penny wanted food, Edgar was happy to comply. At first, Dr. Now tried to break the cycle by keeping Penny in the hospital on a strict diet, away from Edgar. She lost enough weight to qualify and go through with surgery. But Penny's weight remained dormant during her recovery, which made no sense considering the liquid diet she was on. Dr. Now suspected Edgar had something to do with it.
She's not losing weight anymore. She's being given the right diet. There is no reason why she shouldn't lose more weight while she's in the hospital. Penny must have somebody stinking her food.
With no progress in her weight loss, Penny was sent home to continue losing weight on her own. But that's where the enabling was in full force.
I cannot function without wontons.
Doctor is out and it's going to be like, why is she eating that?
Edgar was the one who fetched the ingredients, fried the wontons, and set the whole thing up on the mattress beside her. Left to herself, Penny couldn't have done any of it. Renee, Sean Milliken's mother. Of every enabler on My 600-Pound Life, she might be the worst, and the saddest. Sean Milliken was 27 years old, and his mother still treated him like a baby. Weighing over 1,000 pounds, he was the heaviest person ever to appear on My 600-Pound Life. For 8 years, she waited on him hand and foot, and never once pushed him out of that bed.
Just a couple burgers and soda. Maybe medium fry. Oh, could you give me one of those caramel sundaes?
Sometimes it's just easier to give him what he wants, and unfortunately, I do that all the time.
Dr. Now eventually admitted Sean to the hospital and put him on a strict 1,200-calorie diet with staff in charge of every meal. For once, the weight started dropping. But the second he was back under Renee's roof, she undid all of it.
Really are not helping him, okay? We haven't seen him in months, okay?
Right.
He's not following his diet.
Okay.
He should have lost more weight.
Yes, I agree.
All right, what do you mean you agree? You're killing him and you're naming other people not taking care of him.
When Renee suddenly passed away, we saw the real damage her enabling had caused. Sean was a grown man in his late 20s, with the independence of a small child. He couldn't even make himself a sandwich. Grieving and completely on his own, Sean reached for the only comfort he'd ever known: food. In just 2 months, he blew through $9,000 of his life insurance settlement on fast food. He gained over 240 pounds in 6 weeks, and his body simply couldn't survive it.
I'm very sad to say that earlier today, Sean Milliken passed away. Over the past few years, we had worked with him to try to get his weight down, but Sean has consistently regained any weight we helped him to lose.
Maybe Renee thought she was doing right by Sean, but her enabling created an unshakable codependence. And once she was gone, he didn't stand a chance. Josh, Betty Jo's husband. Betty Jo was 654 pounds, and Josh was the one feeding her. He did the grocery shopping off her list, and at the store, he'd just trail behind her, dropping whatever she pointed at in the cart. At home, he handed her plates piled high with breaded chicken strips, whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted it. Josh made sure she got it, even though it was slowly killing her. Dr. Now spotted this unhealthy dynamic instantly.
I'm concerned that her husband may be the biggest problem. He's an enabler, but he's not overweight. which means he's feeding her because he may want her to be large. If that's the case, it's going to be a difficult situation to resolve.
And Josh basically admitted it. His biggest fear wasn't Betty Jo dying on the operating table. It was her losing weight and leaving him. And it got worse. When Betty Jo finally took some accountability and started losing weight, Josh got depressed.
I'm getting a little frustrated right now. I gave up everything to come down here. I was hoping it would go a little bit better than what it has been, but it hasn't.
I know he cares, but I just feel like he's not motivated to help me.
I feel like if we didn't even come down here, she wouldn't be how she is, and we'd be okay. I don't know what's going to happen with us. I don't know the damage that's going to be done in our relationship.
His wife was getting healthier, and it made him miserable. Every step toward independence was a step away from him, and he couldn't bear that. And it didn't stop there. During a follow-up visit, Betty Jo claimed she had a growth on her spine and hinted it might be cancer. But Dr. Now brought in a specialist who found nothing seriously wrong. Instead of feeling relieved that his wife didn't have cancer, Josh got angry.
And it's not anything that I would consider cancer. The only test that will determine bone cancer is doing a biopsy.
It is cancer.
Okay, is a biopsy was showing that it's cancer? It is a biopsy showing it was cancer?
I'm done talking. I'm shutting up before I lose my temper.
He defended her story and stormed out of the clinic. Josh seemed to actually want her sick because as long as she was dying, she'd always need him. So for years, the man who claimed to love her gambled with her life rather than face the thought of being alone. Don't gamble with the content you watch. The odds of this video being worth a like and a hype are pretty much guaranteed. So take your chances and subscribe. You really can't lose. Freddie, Shanae's husband. Shanae is remembered as one of the most difficult patients the show ever followed, and a lot of that came down to her attitude. Whenever she didn't get her way, she'd erupt. And Freddie's solution was to feed her, just to keep the peace.
I feel very conflicted from some of the stuff we pick out sometimes from the store. They really are the worst foods for us. Anything that she desires, she gets it. If I don't get it what she wants, she'll be pissed off and she'll get really mad. So I just get it for her because I'm afraid to tell her no.
Freddie was a complete doormat, giving in to whatever Shanae demanded, just to dodge another explosion. And that pattern led to one of the most bizarre moments in the show's history. When Shanae was hospitalized under Dr. Now's care, he quickly found out why Shanae had not been losing weight. Freddie had been sneaking fast food into her room behind the staff's back. And when Dr. Now confronted her about it, Freddie was quick to take all the blame.
That belongs to Freddie.
Shanae, the lying need to stop now.
It was me that ate it. She didn't eat any of that.
You both need to stop lying.
Obviously, Dr. Now didn't buy it for a second. But that was Freddie in a nutshell. He was willing to lie to Dr. Now's face, rather than risk upsetting Shanae, even if it cost her her life. Eventually, Shanae was kicked out of the program for failing to comply. There are other patients who Dr. Now refused to help too, including patients who actually gained weight after surgery. Check the description to watch that video next. Gilbert, Lupe Samano's husband. Lupe was 642 pounds and only 5 feet tall, which left her completely bedbound. Her husband Gilbert did everything for her, which sounds caring until you see what everything meant.
What? Look.
No, I don't know.
Go ahead. Let's pick.
Give me a plate and a
Listen, please.
Lupe was already in real danger. She had heart and kidney problems, she was diabetic, and she'd slipped into a diabetic coma once already. Dr. Now made sure she understood exactly how close to the edge she was.
She's been killing herself, and her husband has been helping her to do that. At her size, she's been consuming at least 20 to 30,000 calories a day. So we need to get her health under control immediately and turn the situation around with her husband.
In the hospital, on a controlled diet, she started strong and lost 60 pounds. But by the next weigh-in, she'd gained it all back, thanks to Gilbert. Dr. Now was forced to readmit her to the hospital. But while Lupe was fighting to save her life, Gilbert was secretly flirting with other women on Facebook and trying to meet up with them. But the worst came later on. Lupe eventually had weight loss surgery and eventually underwent skin removal. But in recovery, Gilbert pressured her into intimacy while she was heavily medicated and in pain.
It's been about a month since I had my skin removal surgery, and I was healing well. But Gilbert was really insistent that we have sex when I got home. And afterwards, it felt like I had ripped open my sutures.
Is that mold?
The pain is so unbearable. I asked Gilbert to call an ambulance to take me to the hospital, and all he can think about is getting drunk.
5 hours in the ER. God, unbelievable.
A recovery that should have been simple turned into a life-threatening emergency. All because Gilbert couldn't put her health above his own physical pleasure for even a few days. Thankfully, Lupe got out. She eventually left Gilbert and moved to San Antonio to live with her cousin, putting real distance between herself and the toxic marriage so she could finally focus on her health. Gareth, Jalen Whitworth's husband. From the start, Gareth made it clear he was drawn to bigger women, and Jalen fit exactly what he wanted. Her size wasn't something to fix. In his eyes, it was exactly what he'd signed up for.
She looked so big and comfy and soft and squishy.
I've always liked bigger women, you know. Why settle for a hot dog when you can have a steak?
So when Jalen decided to get healthy and fight for her life, Gareth fought back. He told her flat out that he wasn't going to do any dieting, and that her losing weight was upsetting to him because it meant losing what he liked. Then it turned cruel. When she came home from weight loss surgery, he pulled straight into a drive-thru and waved a burger in her face to mock and tempt her.
Don't be tempted now.
I'm not even a little bit tempted.
Eating my food. You want chip?
It's a little bit nauseating, to be honest.
Oh, my burger.
I think I married a jerk, but I think he doesn't know any other way. I don't know if I'm gonna have Gareth's support, but I can't turn back now.
And it got worse from there. When she simply asked him to buy her a salad, his response showed exactly how toxic he was willing to be.
I'm not buying you a salad. If you want to eat grass, you can go in the garden and graze.
To Gareth, her progress wasn't something to celebrate. He tried to crush every milestone Jalen hit. Thankfully, she kicked his ass to the curb. Stephen Sr., Stephen Asante's father. Stephen Sr. was a different breed of enabler. He enabled his son mostly to keep him quiet. We all know Stephen Asante, widely considered the worst person the show has ever featured.
Hello, are you my nurse? I am a bedpan. I don't like that. I don't like her. You want to hang out?
He was manipulative, abusive, and addicted to both food and painkillers. And the man funding all of it was his dad. On the road trip to see Dr. Now, Stephen kept calling from the back of the transport truck, demanding food, even threatening his father. And his dad kept giving in, just to make the complaints stop.
I don't feel entitled, but I want what I want, and when I don't get it, I get pissed off, and I start ranting and raving until I do get what I want. I just want what I want, and that's it.
What, you think you made of money?
Hello?
I am feeling very weak, and if something happens to me, you're gonna be very sorry.
Welcome to the real Steven.
This wasn't a one-off thing, over-dramatized for the sake of the cameras. Stephen once threatened to call the police on his father if he didn't order him food. So Stephen Sr. sent a pizza delivery, ordered from another state entirely, just to end the harassing phone calls.
Why you asking for pizza again? I cannot afford it.
All right, that's the last time I'm doing that. Thank you for calling the Vision. How can I help you?
Yeah, could I have large cheese and pepperoni, please? Thank you. If I don't order Steven this pizza, he will go to the hospital, and I don't want to see him do that.
He chose self-preservation over tough love every single time. And no, Stephen Sr. wasn't some millionaire who could shrug off the bill. He was semi-retired and driving for Uber at the time. But he continued to pay for his son's enormous food addiction, which enabled Stephen to avoid reality completely. By this point, Stephen had developed a serious painkiller addiction, and once again, his father fed it instead of fighting it. Stephen and his brother Justin weren't on good terms, but Stephen Sr. still brought Stephen over to Justin's place while Justin was recovering from surgery. Then Justin's pain medication went missing. When he confronted them, Stephen Sr. admitted the truth.
He's a junkie. I don't talk to junkies.
No, but you want me to do a lot of things for you, but you won't do nothing for me.
Yeah, how about you tell him how many pills you use?
Gave him 10 of them.
Yeah, whose pills were they?
Yours.
This wasn't just about food anymore. Stephen Sr. was now enabling his son's drug addiction and sabotaging Justin's recovery in the process. Ultimately, I know Stephen Sr. was doing the best he could, but in the end, the challenge was more than he could manage, and he paid the price. An infantilized son who never had to grow up. At the end of the day, these enablers all played a part in keeping the people they supposedly loved sick. Some did it out of fear, some out of control. But either way, it nearly cost these patients everything. And just like Stephen Asante's father, the worst damage can sometimes come from parents. I've ranked the 8 worst parents on my 600-pound life, and that video's on your screen right now.